The Syrian Day of Rage took place on March 15, 2011. Millions of Syrian citizens took to the streets, demanding changes to their government. Demands included an end to public corruption, expanded civil rights, stronger due process, and other democratic reforms many Americans would sympathize with. Protests had taken place throughout the Arab world during the Arab Spring of 2011. Similar style protests had ousted longtime governments in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya just months before the start of the protest in Syria. Police brutalized the protesters with water cannons and their batons, and President of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, referred to the protesters as terrorists. After a violent suppression of the protesters began openly clashing violently with police in Syria. Protesters began advocating for the removal of Bashar al-Assad from office rather than reforming the current government. The government responded by torturing and arresting thousands of known protesters and other forms of retaliation, including firing on unarmed peaceful demonstrators. The repression only further galvanized the protesters, and protests grew daily, even in the face of harsh government retaliation. The government began deploying military rather than police to deal with the protests, often violently, lashing out at protesters. By the end of 2011, a group of military officers defected from the Assad government and supported the protesters, calling themselves the Free Syrian Army. After the formation of the Free Syrian Army, protesters gained access to military weapons, and what had begun as a nonviolent protest movement to reform an autocratic government had become a full-on civil war. 4 years into the Syrian civil war, it is important to remember the original demands that gave rise to this conflict. A constitutional, democratic government that respects the wishes and dignity of all of its citizens.